hear an ancient voice whispering from the void, and it chills my lightless heart.
G'day guys, Duckville here. We're going to have another look at a replay from the Team Liquid Star League number 3. This is going to be another match between some of the high-level players of the entire StarCraft scene. Our Terran player here in the Grandma Purple is going to be QXZ of USA fame, with some awesome harass-style Terran play, which is generally what he is into. He's actually going to be heading over to Korea soon in the summer, well, the summer for USA. It's winter down here, of course, in Australia, but hopefully we'll be seeing him in some GSL action perhaps, but we'll see what happens. His opponent, of course, up here in the top side of Metalopolis, the coolest map in the whole rotation, is Adelscott, who I have actually done a couple of replays of, I believe, when we were talking about mech in TvP. So Adelscott here is, of course, a player from France who is in the Team Millennium. He's been doing a great job on the Euro server at the moment, but we'll see what he can pull up against QXZ. And as we mentioned, QXZ famous for some harass, little fun stuff, but we'll see if he can pull something off today. It looks as if he's going to try something perhaps a little bit different here, putting a barracks down at the gold expansion in the middle, the southern side gold expansion, but he is cross spots, so he hasn't actually scouted out, of course, so this is just a blind barracks here. You'd be sort of hoping that your opponent was over here at this side, but of course he's a little bit further away up in this top corner. But Adelscott, meanwhile, putting out his gateway, his gas, and he's going to just keep powering on those probes for the moment. But what we can see at the moment is that QXZ is getting that gas, sort of standard timing for the gas, and we'll see if he's going to pull out some marine shenanigans. I'm not really sure. Perhaps this Rax might just be for scouting. I'm not really sure just at the moment yet, but we will see what happens. We will see if a marine pops out. I'm not really sure. No, he's actually putting down a tech lab, so this is just going to be a proxy sort of barracks here. Perhaps going to get out a quick marauder or something like that to get it some marauder harass going, but we'll have to find out what he does with that one. He has now scouted out and found that his opponent is not in this closer ground position here. He is going to scout out with his second SCV as well, so he's really committing to this early rush attack, and he will scout out that he's not close air position, so that leaves only one spot where your opponent can be, and of course that will be up here. So I'm very interested to see what he's going to do here. We do have a marauder coming out, so this is going to be quick marauder, quick concussive shells, and he's just going to try and do what he can here. A bunker going up. This is actually just outside the vision of Adelscott. Unfortunately, this Zealot is going to jump out in just a second, and he will scout that out. And he does come across here. He does have a probe coming along as well. They're going to try and do what they can to that SCV. The bunker, meanwhile, is going to be going to get hits on it from that Zealot, but the SCV is going to try and get back on top of it, make sure it doesn't die off. Meanwhile, the Marauder coming up. It does not have concussive shells just yet, but it will in just a second. That is almost going to be done here. Meanwhile, the Marauder just pushing in here. He's just waiting for the concussive shell, but now a sentry is out, and you would expect that is going to be the end of it for just for now, but a second Marauder is on the way. This guy is huffing and puffing all of his way up to the expansion, just making sure, check out that little waypoint there, just making sure that he doesn't go near the edge. And of course we get a funky little smiley face there from Adelscott, perhaps trying to do a little bit of mind game power there from his opponent, and actually blocks off beautiful beautiful force field, although it's a very little consequence just for the moment, because of course this other Marauder down on the bottom side of the cliff can just sit down there while he has vision and just pick off whatever units he can see that his buddies can see. And a third Marauder is coming up. The first one has gone down, however the two Marauders are now inside. QXZ doing some beautiful harass here with these two Marauders. He's going to try and pull up what he can and shoot away at these probes. He will be able to pick off a couple of them, I would assume, but of course probes don't actually take that bonus damage from Marauders, so the probes may be able to do what they can against these Marauders. But as we can see, a Zealot's out and an Immortal is on the way from Adelscott. He's going to need to get that out quite soon. He's going to need to be careful with this Stalker as well, because the Stalker is really the only thing that's helping him just at the moment. Meanwhile, the Zealot goes down. Warp gates are now done. He's probably going to warp in a couple of Stalkers to make sure that he can actually just contain this these Marauders and pick them off. Perhaps we'll see these probes move across and pick them off as well. There we go. We have two Stalkers inside. He's now microing both of them back. QXZ doing a great job with his micro here. Fantastic little micro battle there from these two players, and of course Adelscott finally victorious with his Immortal coming out. However, he did lose a lot of his forces, and of course had to sort of go straight for that Immortal tech, which may not have been exactly what he wanted to go for, but essentially, as we mentioned, that is all of that one. And these we've got QXC going for the triple racks now with this expansion coming up, which will be done shortly, and we'll probably switch that over into the orbital command shortly. Meanwhile, Adelscott's still chatting away here with his smiley faces, and QXC just trying to get out a few more units to make sure he can defend. However, he's still in a great position for the moment, given that he did pick off, what was that, like 3 or 4 Stalkers perhaps, and a couple of Zealots as well. As you can see on the units lost tab, we actually have 13 units down for Adelscott. Meanwhile, we only have 7 lost for QXC, and look at that mineral count there, that's huge. So he's certainly going to be in a good position defensively. Of course, if Adelscott tries to attack, I don't think there's going to be any way that he could actually attack into this for the moment, but QXC now moving down to make sure he takes his natural pretty quickly as well, which will be really good for his economy. Now, the question is, what is Adelscott going to do from here? It's obviously not, like, I've sort of talked it up a bit, it's not as if it's a massively destructive harass that was performed just then, but it certainly did hold back Adelscott's progression there. With the tech and of course his expansion. He may have wanted to go straight for a quick expansion there, but he certainly couldn't with those Marauders causing a lot of trouble. SCV coming in to scout out what's here. He does see that there are a few more units here at that ramp, just making sure that's protected. Meanwhile, QXC is probably going to grab out a few Marines, and indeed he is. He's got 2 reactors down. The second tech lab is now pumping out the combat shields, and stim is already done, as we can see here. Probe finally going to scout out this proxy racks, which is now probably going to have to move, I would assume, now that that has been spotted, or perhaps it might move in a jiffy once that's all, once he sees that the Protoss is coming down, and indeed he is. As we can see on the mini-map, we've got Adelscott moving out here. He's got a beautifully placed pylon there, so he can warp down some units to the low ground. Meanwhile, this Marauder coming across to the Zelnaga Watchtower can see that Adelscott is moving out. Interesting to see that Adelscott did not actually come up and attack this, but it looks as if he might have enough units now to finish off that Marauder pretty quickly there. Takes it out. He's got 1 Colossus, 1 Immortal, and a couple of Sentries, which are really going to help him out here. He's probably going to just blast away at this Rax once he gets close to it. The Marauder gets cancelled that was building there. However, the Rax finally lifts off and is going to be floating away. I don't think it's going to actually make it, but Adelscott is going to pop down a pylon here. We do see the QXC would have seen that pylon be placed down there, so he's going to want to try and pick that off as soon as he can. Meanwhile, a couple of bunkers going down. We'll probably see maybe another bunker or 2 as well, just to make sure that he's got enough to defend me. Oh, a turret's going down. Nice to see a turret. That can help with if there is an observer that comes out, which is not on the way. No, it's not on the way. He's sticking with these more offensive units here, of course. The Colossus coming down as well, and a turret will of course help against the Colossus because it can shoot against the Colossus, which is classified as a ground and air unit. Turret now shooting away, gets a couple of shots off at that Colossus, takes out some of the shields there. Meanwhile, just trying to get some force fields down to make sure he can sort of just contain some of the units of QXC, though QXC is really going to need to be careful here with these Colossus now moving up to the high ground. They do take some shots at those low ground units there, but a turret was here to fend them off, but we'll see what he can do here. He can't really push into the main, of course, because if he does with his ground units, he'll be very much trapped, but he's going to have even more trouble now. A couple of Vikings are out. I would say this is going to be the end of this push because there's really nothing that these Stalkers can do against the Vikings. They do take a couple of shots at one of the Vikings there. 1 Marine, Hero Rambo Marine here, taking some shots at this pylon here. He's not happy that that pylon has come out here to the natural, and he's now going to get picked off by those extra Stalkers. But as you can see, Adelscott now having to move back because of course those Vikings were out, which were completely going to nullify these 2 Colossi that were walking around on their high heels. So we'll see what happens from here. QXC beautifully taking this 3rd expansion here. Perfect example of what you want to do here. You've fended off that first attack there. Your opponent has retreated. Why not take that 3rd and just make sure you can boost up your economy even further than where your opponent is at. QXC, meanwhile, just scouting around, picking off some pylons. You'd probably expect he might just have a quick look around just in case there are any more pylons, but we'll see what happens. Adelscott now with his natural expansion up and running. We'll probably see the gas go down pretty quickly there because he'd want to sort of stick with those gas heavy units of the Colossus, and perhaps we may see, we got a Twilight Council, so we may even see some Templar, which I would really love to see. Not enough people using Templar in this particular matchup. It is very powerful against those bio units, especially given what QXE is going for, although with that he is actually getting a Ghost Academy, so he's going to have a couple of Ghosts out perhaps just to make sure he can EMP the shields of the Protoss units, not to mention EMP the Templar if they do come out, which they may. I'm not actually sure just yet. No, he's not getting it just yet, but you can of course EMP the Templar, which will make sure that they do not have any energy for Storm, which is the powerful part of the build, of course. So we've got a Marine just checking up here, the third base, making sure he knows what is going on here. This is one thing which QXE has been doing a great job of so far, controlling the towers. He has been doing his best to control this Zelnaga watchtower, but he has had this one for a long time now, of course. This SCV has been up here since the dawn of time. Adelscott, meanwhile, his best solution to this current situation is to take this gold expansion. If he can, that'll be a really good supplement to his income there. As we can see on the income tab, he has fallen a little bit behind because, of course, QXE now has 3 bases up, and that's three command centers, one of them with a planetary fortress. I was going to say 3 orbital commands, but he hasn't gone that greedy, which is good to see. But we do have these Vikings just scouting around. As we mentioned before, QXE doing a great job just scouting out what's happening around the map. As you can see, he's got 1 Marine up here, he's got another Marine over at the 10 o'clock base, and another over here at that 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock base as well, which is going to give him a lot of vision and a lot of knowledge as to when he can actually go in and attack at the expansions of his opponent, and also, of course, know where the units are. Now we've got a drop coming in the back here. QXE once again pulling up some beautiful harass here. Not too many units in here for Adelscott. The Vikings are going to land. They're going to try and do what they can to help out their buddies on the ground, and it looks as if this attack might be quite powerful. He's going to pick off these gateways. Probably want to go for those pylons just to make sure, given that Adelscott can cancel these gateways at any time, although now he can't, but these Vikings are going to need to lift off. Looks as if QXE has done whatever he can, and that was a beautiful attack on those pylons there. Adelscott losing 3 pylons to that reasonably modest little force of units from QXE, although QXE did lose every single thing here. Now, on the opposite side, we do have an attack on the gold expansion. Adelscott is going to be extended to his limit here, I would think. A Ghost is in the mix of this force here, so if any units come up, he's going to get an EMP in the face, and I would expect that EMP to go off against these Immortals, perhaps. No, not just yet, but it looks as if we're going to have a major battle here, guys. We've got the Terran with a whole heap of forces here in the middle. Adelscott coming in from all sides. Some snipes going off there on some of the units there, but it looks as if QXE might just win. He's certainly won in the economy scale, and there we go. We get the GG from Adelscott. So beautiful harass at the start. I love that opening from QXE, pulling up a couple of Marauders just to pull down some of the early Protoss units, which is a really great feat if you can pull that off. And then just following it up with a great expansion timing, and then fending off that initial push from Adelscott, and then just finishing off the game there with a double-pronged attack. So brilliant game there from QXE. We're going to post a few more of these replays from the TSL matches, which have been very cool. I hope everyone has been watching those. Make sure you check out the thread on Team Liquid, and head over to Team Liquid to watch them whenever they're on. But we'll see a few of those quite soon. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Cheers.